Hello everyone and welcome to Chris's Granite Paradise, and more precisely to the patio. About 3 years ago, I tore out our old rotting deck, which some of you may remember from earlier videos, and over about 6 months I created this stone patio with 2 tables, a retractable awning, 6 metal chairs that we bought, and a beautiful swing, and even a handmade steel fire pit made by my nephew. And here we are seeing what is about 25,000 pounds of hand-chiseled natural stone slabs comprising this bench that forms the outer perimeter of the patio. It originated as long strips that would come off our saws at work, and then I would score them to fixed measurements by tapping them with a chisel line from both sides and then splitting them to expose the natural crystalline surfaces you see here. It took me about 2 years of diligently creating the material and setting it aside as it came available pretty much every day after work. And then I would have huge piles of it at work and then huge piles of it stacked around here wherever it would fit. I just knew that someday I'm going to want to build a wall or something. And it was amazing because when I finally came around to building this bench, I literally had exactly enough material to finish it with none left over. With that said, take a seat here or on any of our other exotic stone benches scattered around the place and enjoy another colorful and vibrant adventure. Hello, my name is Chris, and I'm a rockaholic. In today's video, we are continuing with our overview of the sculptures and the recently reorganized rock displays that exist on many of them, specifically seeing them sprayed down with the garden hose, which, as any rockhound knows, really brings out the colors and patterns. What we are seeing here is what is simply known as the rock pile. I named it that because it really, from a distance, just looks like a rock pile, and it's composed of broken up concrete that I found hidden beneath the rotting deck when I tore it out to build the stone patio that I was just telling you about. And a word to the wise, if you guys ever go by an older home with a deck, be sure to get down on your hands and knees and look under the deck to see what kind of goodies might be waiting there for you. It stayed as a pile for me about a year, and I looked into various options to get rid of all this concrete without spending money. Remember, I don't drive, and so things like that are always a little one step more complicated for me. So in the end, I decided to use most of it and build this display, which consists of the larger pieces stacked up as ledges and shelves on which is housed a wide variety of my larger Cache Laputa river rocks. Although I could not safely build it very high, besides the fact that I didn't have the material needed to do so even if I had wanted to, but I really liked the rough look of the concrete showing here and there among the stones. We see beautiful unikites, migmatites, gneisses, pegmatites, schists, granites, along with minerals such as quartz, magnetite, garnet, pyroxene, muscovite mica, and many others. At the end, I will attach the Cache Laputa rockhounding playlist, as I have quite a few full videos about the river, canyon, and the rocks found in them. Long story short, the river has cut a deep canyon through uplifted and mostly mafic, igneous, and metamorphic rocks, which provides us with this amazing and colorful look at rocks from deep inside the Earth's crust. I will tell you guys a true story. When we moved here to Fort Collins in the year 2000, 26 years ago, wow, I went through what I call rockhound's withdrawal, because I had always lived along the Yellowstone River in Montana with its world-famous selection of agates, jaspers, petrified wood, and many other goodies, which you may have seen in earlier videos. In fact, the Yellowstone display, which I showed nicely in our previous video with the garden hose. And so, when I tried to find rocks here along our little Cache Laputa River, I said, "This is terrible. All that's here is granite." And I remember I would just throw the rocks back down into the water. How boring. What I have learned since is that really no rock is boring. Well, maybe there are a few, but not many. They all tell a story, and as I learned what treasures were hidden amongst these gravels and the amazing geologic history that they show us, now I can hardly think of a more fascinating river to collect along, and it passes literally a few steps from our house now. So, I have 4 large sculpture displays of nothing but cache Laputa materials, both from the river as well as from the canyon, and I still find new materials from time to time. And now we come to the lighthouse sculpture. The upper portion of this sculpture is meant to look like a more natural island structure with thinner, broken edge stone in order to give a rounder, more natural island look from a distance, such as when a person comes in through the gate on the opposite corner of the yard. And then the tall structure above is the lighthouse itself. Originally, I wanted to put a light up there, but I figured it would likely bother the neighbors at night and would probably bother us as well. The vibrant green rocks you see are serpentinite, which is quarried in Wyoming for landscaping purposes. I believe it comes from near Casper. And the rose quartz is from South Dakota. Both of these materials came to me in a large trade I did many years ago with Scott Resources when they were located here in Fort Collins. I mentioned them in the previous video as well, since their rocks are actually scattered all around the collection. I placed the green and pink rocks here together to give the appearance of flowers growing on a windswept rocky outcrop along the ocean. You may have noticed that all of this, several thousand pounds, is actually balanced on 3 tiny supports with a wide space underneath where I have placed some rocks. Well, inside the island structure is a hollow with lots of nooks and crannies, and I am hopeful that someday bats will take up residence inside it. So far, no luck there, at least not that I've noticed, but I have seen bats elsewhere in the garden, so I am hopeful. Art, you may remember when I believe it was your son Charles who was with me one time, and he pulled a rock off a display to look at it, and there was a bat attached to the rock sleeping there. The rocks here that you are seeing are also from the Cache Laputa River, and again, for detailed information about the rocks themselves, I refer you to the Cache Laputa rock hounding playlist for plenty of videos about the rocks and the many outings to different points along the river and up the canyon that I recorded over the last few years. The lower part of the sculpture that we're seeing was originally just a bare, steep-sided pyramid. I wanted it to look kind of like an obelisk from the Egyptian times, with a small flat top, with the shelves being added only years later, inserted simply into empty slots that happened to be within the structure. The sculpture had subsided slightly in one direction, and so I added the shelves and the huge amount of rocks on 3 sides of the sculpture in an effort to shift the center of mass away from the side it was leaning towards. It did not come back to perfect plumb, but it has definitely not subsided anymore in many years, so it seems to have worked. The colors and patterns of this huge array of deep basement rocks is really enjoyable to see all in one place. The bright colors are fitting for the lighthouse display because, to me, they are reminiscent of the colorful corals that might adorn the underwater portion of such a rocky outcrop where the lighthouse is located above. And remember that all of these rocks came from what at one time I thought had to be the most boring river in terms of rock hounding. I can't believe that I actually said that now that I look back on it. Yet it is true and surprising that I never hear of local rock clubs planning field trips to collect these types of rocks. Likely because there are not many materials fitting for lapidary or jewelry work, which seems to be the main thrust of most active rock collectors. I think my type of collection caters more to people interested in geology and petrology, geologic history, and so forth. As well as, of course, as we're seeing here, just to have a beautiful rock garden if nothing else. I call this little guy the hermit crab because to me the large sandstones give it the appearance of a shell on its back, and the curvy structure of the sculpture itself resembles a hermit crab with its large curvy claws. But if you pay attention, you will see ripple marks and critter trails and other fossil prints in these sandstones. I collected them during the 2 years that I was running the 90-inch stone block saw up in Lavina, Montana from 2017 to 2019, which was a truly unique experience. That area of central Montana, of course, is a major hotspot for high-quality sandstone, stair treads, flagstone, wall stones, and other natural stone products. I will attach my playlist containing several videos that I filmed while I was there, and also one from a more recent visit last year. If you like big saws, check those out. The river cobbles are what I collected out of the Musselshell River, which passes through the town, featuring some interesting and colorful sandstones, porphyritic andesites, basalts, and others. Although business-wise our deal did not work out as hoped for, it was a great experience, and I am grateful for the opportunity to have just had that learning experience, both personally and professionally, as well as to see first-hand aspects of the whole operation, from the quarrying of the giant blocks all the way to packaging the finished product as it came off the saw. My main task was running and maintaining the saw. Marcus, if you are seeing this, I hope you can look back on that time as fondly as I do, despite our many struggles and that historically brutal winter that tested every thread of our stamina in a business that was so highly dependent on the weather. We couldn't quarry, we couldn't saw, everything froze solid for months on end. It was the snowiest winter on record, and it just happened to be when we were there. This is the 1,000-pound plant stand, and I call it just a plant stand because it's the only sculpture that was literally built to just be an easily replicable shelf. And it is a garden stand or shelf that really anyone can build because it's made from patio pavers I bought from Home Depot, and I had left over from when I built the patio mentioned at the beginning of this video. The pavers are big ones, 24 by 24 inches, and they're about 2 inches thick, and they weigh 100 pounds each. I should point out here that the bottom portion of this sculpture is composed of stone slabs, and they are actually a beautiful conglomerate material that really matches nicely with the river rocks that are stored on them. Notice that the pavers comprise the upper 2/3 or so of my display. But you can build your creation using exclusively concrete pavers as long as they are sitting on solid ground. I recommend getting bigger and thicker ones because, although harder to build, the end result will be more stable and solid. And since anyone can go out and buy them, I made a video explaining how I did this one, which has this thumbnail that you can look for, and I will attach the video here at the end as well. You can figure that if you use 10 pavers, it would weigh about 1,000 pounds. So obviously you don't want this up on your balcony or on your wooden deck, but it is a nice option if you have enjoyed my sculptures and want to try something similar in your yard without breaking the bank or having to go work for 26 years at a granite fabrication shop to slowly collect all the sink cutouts. This is another display of beautiful Cache Laputa rocks, and some of these are huge. So now you have seen all of my existing Cache Laputa river rock displays. I do have one more display, but it is larger rough rocks from road cuts and other locations in the actual canyon. I will show that one in a future video. One final note about the pavers. I should mention that they are much cheaper if you buy them by the pallet, and many suppliers will deliver them to your home. Let me know what you guys try to make. And of course, I am available and happy to answer any questions you may have if you decide to build something. This is another one of my older sculptures. I think I started building it as early as 2010, and I'm pretty sure I finished it by 2012. And in those years, my kids were still growing up and they were really into the Transformers, those robotic beings who could go around disguised as a car or truck and then transform into these amazing creations. To give it more angles, I cut 45-degree angles off all the corners, and you may notice that I left the cut off triangles laying at its base as ground cover. Because it is an older sculpture, it contains almost exclusively natural stones rather than the more modern synthetics, the beauty and character of which really show up when the sculpture is wet. Because of all the flat surfaces, this sculpture in particular would make an amazing water feature, requiring really very little water to function. The flat surfaces each hold standing water for a few minutes, and so water poured on the top takes quite a long time to reach the bottom, especially if it were built on a perfectly level foundation, which, due to ground irregularities in my situation, has been almost impossible. In fact, I have come to want the sculptures to be ever so slightly out of level just so that they don't hold water, since water freezes during the colder months. But this one is close to level, and so the water runs off it very nicely, as we are seeing here. We are seeing stones that are quarried in India, Norway, Finland, South Africa, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and many other places. A lot of them, of course, I have no idea where they might be from, just due to the extensive variety that would come through our shop. The Yellowstone River flat rock jackpot was actually set in place just earlier this year, and so I did a full video with time-lapse footage and an interview with Art, my dear friend who found most of these rocks and brought them down to me over several years and several trips. Yes, full carloads of these rocks. Last November, he and I visited the location along the Yellowstone where these flat rocks, due to irregularities in the currents, were naturally deposited together in an unusual treasure trove for anyone who likes flat, smooth rocks, which are normally quite hard to find even on the Yellowstone. Here are the thumbnails to both of these videos so that you can see and find them more easily on the channel. What is most unusual or interesting about these is that they are not simply a gathering of rock varieties that tend to be flat, such as naturally layered sandstone or slate might tend to be, but rather we see represented here really any other type of rock you might find on the Yellowstone. Granites, basalts, porphyries, gneisses, rhyolites. And note that even the sandstones are not broken along the layers as we might expect, but rather across them. This tells us that the flattening process is more precisely a work of the currents and river movements rather than the rock type itself. There is actually extensive research online about how this process works. I recommend for starters that you check out the two videos which I mentioned here. For lack of a better name, I'm calling this one simply the Spiral. And after several earlier incarnations that existed, it was finally rebuilt in this form beginning in early 2014, and in fact was featured in the 2014 interview with Denver's Channel 7 when photojournalist Major King was here in March of that year. That interview is still up on their channel. Of course, this was years before I had my own channel, but I did conserve the time-lapse, which appears in a few of my later videos. The pieces themselves are from 18-inch round drop-in bathroom sinks. We always just called them 18-inch rounds. This particular size was one of our more common sinks, especially since several more economical sink models use the same template. This allowed me to collect more than 400 of these, and I think about 300 of them are being seen here. What I like about this design is that we are still able to see a good portion of the polished surface of each piece, and it really highlights some beautiful and unique stone varieties. My apologies for the tight quarters. Some of the sculpture is hard to see because it is only inches away from two other sculptures tightly placed on either side. But we do see enough to get the idea and realize what a treasure trove this is in terms of rock varieties and the respective quarry locations that are represented. This is also another design that holds water well, which would make it a really cool water feature. If we could just figure out a pond lining capable of supporting several tons of stone. And, of course, we would need to rebuild the thing. Those are tough questions. Although converting these into water features is definitely possible, such a project would require a lot of money and even more time. Something that is much simpler and yet maybe equally as impressive, but far less expensive, is the idea of placing solar lights at the bases or in other convenient locations amongst the sculptures to put on a really cool night show. There are higher end models that can be synced with each other through an app and can be made to change colors in order and so forth. I have one such light installed and it has been working great for about 4 years now, so that may be what's coming next to Granite Paradise. Let me know your thoughts. Well, this concludes today's video. As you can see in the background of the clips we've been seeing today, there are still many more displays and sculptures to get to yet, including some real giants. So keep an eye out for that video when it comes out. God bless you guys, and please remember to like, share, subscribe, post, repost, give the thumbs up, all that good social media stuff, as it really helps move us forward as a channel. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.